He's deadly, cunning and devious. As Napoleon's chief spymaster, he may be short in stature, but he towers in influence. That's right, today we're going to look at the lifetimes and campaigns of sharp arch-villain and French intelligence operative, the murky Major Pierre Ducos. Major Pierre Ducos appears in the Bernard Cornwell Sharpe series in both TV and books. He is the cunning enemy and French foe of Richard Sharpe, who meets him whilst campaigning or soldiering across Portugal and Spain under the Duke of Wellington. With his animal magnetism, seemingly irresistible to the ladies, and swashbuckling persona, there can be no doubt if Sharpe was in the modern era military, he would have clearly have been a steely-eyed submariner. However, before the days of the submarine service, the Alpha Chad equivalent was the elite 95th Rifles. That said, even though an infantry officer, in his adventures, Sharpe would find himself unwittingly pulled into other tasks, many times dragged into the dark world of espionage and spy games. Through the course of his army career and campaigning, Sharpe acquires three main enemies, one of them being the master manipulator and scheming spy, Major Pierre Ducos. Today, we're going to speculate on what sneaky methods and tradecraft the dastardly Ducos may have used whilst being sent to Spain by Napoleon to fix the Spanish ulcer. A man of the shadows, Ducos was not a natural soldier. Armed with a flaccid fencing sword and a pathetically small pistol, Ducos had to use all his cunning to outfox strapping soldier Sharpe. Let's delve into his background and see how Ducos became a mortal enemy of Sharpe. Ducos was a protégé of Joseph Fouché, the infamous secret policeman of the French Revolution. A young General Bonaparte came to rely on Ducos as a reliable source of credible intelligence. His career subsequently rose with his new boss. Soon, despite only having the outward rank of a modest major, Ducos became a top intelligence officer for France, with the ear of Napoleon himself. He is disliked and feared by his own side, including officers much senior to him. Often coming close to getting the better of Sharpe, the devious Ducos orchestrates various schemes and plots against him after our ex-ranker rifleman made the mistake of breaking Ducos' spectacles, leaving the slippery spy with a lifelong, fanatical vendetta against our swaggering sharpshooter. Being a shady French intelligence operative that he was, Ducos would likely focus on intelligence gathering as well as information operations to achieve his underhand goals. We shall delve into these murky areas to see what our fiendish Frenchman was up to. Number 1. Human intelligence or humint. As a chief of intelligence, it's likely Ducos' first priority when he arrived at French Army headquarters in Madrid would have been to build up a network of informants and spies across Spain and Portugal. As a person of interest to Spanish, Portuguese and British intelligence, it's likely Ducos was followed wherever he went by counterintelligence operatives. Therefore, it would have been hard for Ducos to physically recruit informants himself. Rather than lurk in the corners of tavernas or restaurants, Ducos himself likely stayed in the shadows on French bases and acted as a top node or senior case officer or controller to a network of agent handlers who would carry out Ducos' dirty work for him and recruit assets or informants outside the wire. This would leave one step of separation between him and the spies on the ground. Infiltrating key organisations within Wellington's army would have been a top priority for dodgy Ducos. By placing agents within the Redcoat force, these malicious moles could attempt to elicit information from targets within. Although we don't know of a concrete connection between Ducos and Colonel Philippe Leroux, an arch assassin and spy who infiltrated into the British force as a fake POW in Sharpe sword, this could be an example of his various intrigues. Ducos did refer to Leroux as a good man, and a pity he was killed. It's likely Ducos may have been the puppet master behind this scheme. We certainly know the diabolical Ducos used corrupt priests and partisan leaders in his shifty spying games. With his complex spider's web of informants established, adopting bribery or blackmail as his preferred methods, Ducos even reportedly managed to bribe the Spanish commander of Badajoz into opening the gates to the French. Unlike Sharpe's other bêtes noires or lifelong enemies, such as Sir Henry Simmerson, whose hobbies include running scams, hanging out with his cousin at horse guards, and harassing servant girls, the devious Ducos dedicated his life to the revolution and didn't seem to have many pastimes other than following dated foppy French gentlemen's fashions, splashing out on expensive spectacles that Sharpe liked to smash up, and the occasional visit to an army brothel, indulging in a lady of the night, according to the books anyhow. Number 2. Imagery intelligence, or IMINT. Before the days of drones and satellites, it's likely Ducos would have had to use a team of agents undercover to cross into enemy lines to assess fortifications and positions. Perhaps Ducos used men disguised as horse traders to infiltrate enemy lines. These were always good cover. The used car salesmen of their day, they could quickly enter an enemy camp and assess the size of the force, looking at the number of mounts, how much fodder's there, but also signs for preparation for any coming offensive. They could also speak to the soldiers, gaining key tidbits of information, as well as garnering atmospherics such as morale. Traders entering forts could assess the thickness of the walls and also the size of the garrison, writing out sketches later. Indeed, Wellington's own army used spies in the guise of surveyors and engineer exploring officers as cover, like Major Hogan. You could sketch the terrain out in the open, move around freely, and no one would suspect you as an exploring officer. During the Raj, officers disguised as hunters or explorers were always good cover for spying on new territory. Number 3. Signals intelligence, or SIGINT. In the days before listening posts and electronic intercepts, capturing your enemy's communications and dispatches would have been a key objective for both sides. It's likely then that Ducos would have used code and cipher in his dispatches to prevent any uncovering of information. Having secure communications was vital to both armies, as each would attempt to intercept the couriers of the other force. Encrypting dispatches was a common practice at the time, with cipher code tables being handed to agents to write letters. This was also used within the army itself for sensitive communications. In 1811, the communication cipher used between the French High Command in Madrid and France, known as the Grand Chiffre, consisted of 1,400 code numbers compared to the Portuguese 150 code numbers. Through this mechanism, no doubt Ducos and his crafty cohorts would have kept Napoleon appraised of his latest schemes. Perhaps also Ducos communicated with his spy ring using dead drops, that is, a pre-arranged location of secret exchanges of packages, messages and payments. In the days before dog poop bins, this could have been a hole in the wall or even a fake rock with a hidden compartment. Ducos could then ensure no direct contact then between himself and his secretive sources, pick up his package and continue on his day, possibly visiting Specsavers as cover for dodging anyone surveilling him. Information operations, or I.O. As well as the physical war, there was the information war. Gaining the upper hand in this would have been critical to the French. In Sharpe's battle, Ducos distributes leaflets with black propaganda and disinformation amongst the British army. This was a failed attempt to incite the Irish troops to mutiny within the army, with false reports of British atrocities against the native population back home in Ireland. This is a clear example of information warfare or psychological operations. In the days before bot farms and social media, gaining control of Spain's printing press would have been crucial for Ducos. Being the expert of dirty tricks, no doubt Ducos would have either set up his own newsletters or infiltrated established news sources. He could have done that by targeting Spanish journalists or editors, bribing them or threatening them to insert fake news stories or disinformation. This would sow confusion and dissension in the enemy and the local population. No doubt the Irish leaflets were just the tip of the iceberg for Ducos. We finally see Ducos' demise towards the end of the war. Seeing the French army disintegrate all around him, Ducos decides to steal the Emperor's treasure, framing Sharpe for the theft and fleeing to Naples. Living like a modern-day influencer, Ducos rents out a castle villa and leads the high life, with pots of cash and a gaggle of hired thugs and high-class escorts. Angered by being framed for stealing all the gold and having had Ducos smash up his prized telescope in a previous episode, when our hero Sharpe finally tracks the seedy spy down to his crib, poor Ducos ends up being shot from his horse whilst fleeing. With no friends, being no Latin Lothario, described as repulsive to women and with a poxed face, you can't help but feel sorry for the misunderstood Duco. As far as sharp baddies go, I always had a soft spot for him and thought he was excellently portrayed by French actor Theodore Atkin. Maybe not as brash as Sir Henry Simmerson or as vile as Obadiah. One redeeming feature our elusive spy did have is that he always detested unnecessary violence. Unless it was torturing Sharpe, of course. Being a man of the shadows, it's unclear whether Ducos would have received any medals. But if so, it's likely he may have been awarded with either one or all of these during the Napoleonic period: the Legion of Honour, Order of the Iron Crown, and Order of the Reunion. We'll save these medals for another video and go into them in more detail when we cover perhaps a French marshal or someone else in the Napoleonic army. If you're interested in medals and military history, you might want to consider purchasing my book Clasps of Courage. Within it, you'll find useful information on medal collecting, very detailed information on the India General Service 54 medal, a beautiful medal if I may say so myself, as well as lots of info on military campaigns in India in the 19th century which involved this medal. This would have included lesser known scraps on the northwest frontier, campaigns in Persia, Malaysia and even Burma. The Amazon link is in the channel description. So we've covered Ducos, Sharpe and Simmerson now. I think Simmerson and Sharpe will pop up on the end screen at some point imminently. All we've got now is Obadiah Hakeswell, unless I've forgotten anybody. Well, I hope you found some value from this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.